Can you hear me?
Yep.
About now?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
So I made both of your accounts the co-host, so you should be able to.
Okay, so now from this screen, let me minimize that one, and then let me share screen. Let's see. Share screen. There we go. Share the screen. Share. There we go. And then let me hit play. Is it playing? Is it not doing that? It's weird. I hit it to share the screen. Is it okay that it's got those things on the side?
I don't think it really matters as long as you can see the slide.
All right. And let me widen up the view here. Okay. And how come I can't see? Oh, I need to minimize that one. There we go. Getting her all dialed in here.
Do your thing, man. Morning, Rosie. Morning, Craig.
Morning, everybody. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
There we go. Technology when you got to share screens, huh?
All right. It's our new world. Got to be masters of this stuff, right?
Totally. I'm actually used to facilitating off of one screen though, not two. So
I only use one screen, but everybody has their own methods.
right.
I usually get started 2-3 minutes after 10, Tom. So.
Gotcha. Okay, for sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, perfect. I'm using two different screens, so if I look up and down, that's why.
No worries.
Very, very good. Well, it's Friday. It's the last Friday of the month, actually, isn't it?
That's right.
And there's still plenty of time between now and the end of the month to make a dramatic difference in someone's life. And that's what we're going to focus on today.
You got it. Love it. Morning, Michael, Haley, Jen, Ryan. See Andrea's connecting. Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And we do record these, Tom, so we have a video library for all of our Ignite series for future use.
Awesome. I love it. And that's smart as well, because not everybody can necessarily make the call at the time it's live.
Exactly. For a lot of our dual career agents.
Yeah, absolutely. That way there, nobody misses out on any of the content. So.
Yep.
Hopefully the rate of my screen catches up and stays going. So it'll all be good.
It's good so far. All right, I'll let you take it away. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to just give a quick hello and let Mr. Tom Moore take it away today. I'll let him speak to his accolades and his experience with Keller Williams. But he started with us in Cerritos, back in like 2017?
16, actually, beginning of 16.
Yep, same as me. So we got started in our Cerritos Market Center at the same time, roughly. And I'll let him fill you in on his background. And he's going to be teaching our Ignite Spark number 9 today. So enjoy, everybody.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone to our Spark 9, a day in the life of a real estate agent. My name is Tom Moore. I'm excited to be with you guys today. As Nick explained, I've been with Keller Williams since the early part of 2016 and started as an agent just like you over there. I came from another brokerage prior to coming in the door. And my business really took off once I actually joined KW, because KW has the model systems and now the technology to really propel my business to where I wanted it to go. And it truly has done just that. So I became a capper, and which I know you know what that is. And I had an opportunity to serve on the Agent Leadership Council at Cerritos for a couple of years before moving on to a team leader position at another market center that had a need. And as needs changed throughout the industry, there was another opportunity for me to become the ATL, assistant team leader, at another market center where I serve now. So I'm excited to be with you guys today and to go through a day in the life of a real estate agent. And so as we get started, I wanted to kind of get to know you guys a little bit. I know this is kind of little early introductions for everyone, but it's easier if I can actually talk to a live audience. So if you wouldn't mind maybe unmuting, or I should say turning on your screens so I could actually see you if you feel comfortable doing that, or if your background doesn't really matter. But I'd love to just see you guys on this call. That would be wonderful. I would like this to be interactive, where it's not just me lecturing all day long and you taking notes, but us to actually interact and have a real conversation, just like you guys do in the real industry, right? So anyway, those are kind of how I'd like to get started here today. And doing so, I wanted to ask who would like to share what they're grateful for on this new journey that you are taking in the Ignite course. Anyone? Silence. No, somebody share. Somebody unmute yourself. Share.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
I think I voiced this before, but I'm just grateful for KW's training. because I know that's not very common with other brokerages, and just how supportive everyone is. I've emailed Nick several times for help, and he's always replied right away and has been a great source of information.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Absolutely. Keller Williams is known for being the #1 real estate franchise, and no doubt that's why, is because definitely has, stellar training, which you're, experiencing as part of this journey that you're taking. So anyone else would like to share? I see another screen popping on here. And who do we have here? Who else? Somebody just turned on your screen, but I don't see your name on your screen for some reason. So who else would like to share? What are you grateful for in this new journey? Anyone?
I'll join in. My name
I'd
is
appreciate that, Craig. Thank you.
and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have this kind of upside and flexibility. And as was suggested earlier, that the training I think is unparalleled, and I'm glad to be part of the #1 team in the area.
Awesome. Yes, thank you for sharing. And it's weird because since COVID and everything, we had to really pivot our mind shift and actually become even further innovative than we already had been in the technology age. And so, we were always so used to those hands-on live training classes, which, you separate that out in a digital platform. It's hard, because like I've asked you guys to, show your screens and unmute, and I don't know, there's a little reticence. It just seems in the Zoom platform, which is common. And so, but in a live setting, when you're literally sitting next to somebody, it's a lot easier to collaborate. And so the nice thing is we're able to do this in kind of a hybrid setting where, you can actually go to live training classes as well as have opportunity for, this to be, performed in a digital format as well. So what opportunities do you see yourself? What are you excited about in your real estate business thus far? How's that journey been going? Anybody want to share about that? Anything come to mind? Any opportunities you see yourself for the future?
To help people realize prosperity.
Absolutely.
That's a big
Absolutely.
upside.
That's awesome. So let me ask you guys this, because I know that you guys you're relatively newer in the industry in real estate. Some of you might have already sold a few homes, but what challenges are you guys actually facing right now in your real estate businesses? And I'm looking down because I'm looking at all of you.
For me, Tom, is I'm a dual career agent. So I actually work as a director of operations for a real estate team up north.
Oh, nice.
So I'm grateful for that because it's taught me so much, but it's just finding or time blocking and making sure that I get to do my business as well.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that, because I'm sure that tone resonates with so many other on the call, and if not on this call, in previous sessions leading up to this one. It's not uncommon for an agent like yourself to be a dual career agent. Some people aren't in a capacity where they can just dive right in and go full time. And as you back when you took your exam, you were taught, have at least 6 months reserves, because it could take a little bit to kind of get the wheel spinning in your business and really get that momentum built up. So thank you so much for sharing that. And as part of that journey, the same methods and successes that we'll be teaching through the course of this journey is actually going to help you as not only a full-time agent, but also being a dual career agent as well. So you'll see how they parallel together. So our topic for today will provide a realistic view of what a successful agent's day looks like. And you'll learn that real estate is truly a full-time job in and of itself that is in fact rewarding in so many ways. And I think I think Craig actually mentioned it earlier, just the opportunity to go out and help people. And I'm so passionate about that is because there's somebody out there that needs to buy or sell a home that hasn't met me yet. And I need to step into that position to help somebody make a difference in their life. And that's actually what's on the back of my business card. I don't know if you can see that, but it actually says, with a passion to make a difference in someone's life, yours. So if you truly have the right mindset and you truly go out and just pour your heart into what you do, wouldn't it be nice to just get up every day, do something you love to do, and at the end of the day, getting paid is just a byproduct of just getting up and loving what you do? So that's what we're going to teach you. We want you to have a passion for what you do in real estate, and not consider this just to be like another job opportunity, but really a career base that could really set your future in a momentum for propelled growth and really financial security moving forward. So as we continue down into our topic for today, what successful agents, and that should flip on your screen here. There's a slight delay. My apologies for that. There it is. Okay. So what successful agents do every day? We talked about growing the business. So we talked about lead generate for buyers and sellers, making seller listing presentations to get the listings, and also making buyer presentations to also get the listings, and also preview real estate. So if you're going to sell real estate, you need to be previewing real estate, looking at where it's listed at versus what it's sold at. In this market, in today's market, being a hot seller's market, you're going to see a lot of properties listed here and sold up here, if not way up here, because that's just the market we're in. But you need to study that. You need to see, why did it sell for that? What were the metrics of that home compared to other homes? So we'll be talking a little bit more about that today. Also, in running your business, okay, let me pop this down here. So in running your business, you will market seller listings, show buyer houses, negotiate the contracts, transaction management to closing, which we have a great product, Command, which you guys have already been introduced to as well for that process. Vendor management, setting goals, which is a huge element to success in this business. Compliance and risk management, and attending training and getting coaching, and also managing your money. And some people look at that as like, why would I need to do that? Because you're now a business owner. And if you're a business owner, you need to learn how to manage your money for your business. And we're going to talk about that as well in somewhat on this journey today, but also in, you might have already gone through some of that leading up, and also in subsequent classes as well. So today we'll bring it all together and examine how successful agents structure their day. We're going to look at what we've learned thus far in practice so far, growing and running our business, as we've just looked on the screen there. And we'll also revisit our 411. I know you guys have had an opportunity to complete a 411, working on updating our goals, and also develop an accountability system to achieve those goals. Accountability is huge in this industry. Who can guess why? Why is accountability so important as a real estate professional? Anyone?
There's so much money at stake, right?
There is definitely so much money at stake.
And the clients want to trust you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. In fact, let me give you a little bit of a roadmap of what today is going to look like. Give it a second for the screen to update. There you go. So here's what we're going to be basically working on today. Okay, a day in the life of the real estate agent includes growing your business, running your business, setting weekly and daily objectives, creating accountability, and recap and ahas. So that's really, really big. At the end of your day, a lot of people will journal what their day is like. It's kind of like, journaling is kind of like writing a diary in a sense. I know many of you have probably seen that Brady Bunch episode where Marcia writes her in her diary. So it's kind of a similar effect though. It's just writing down a bunch of thoughts and everything that you want to be able to recall at a later date. And so walking through the end of your day, being able to journal what your day was like. And so Nick will often refer to those as the GBUs, the good, bad, and the uglies, because they will occur in the course of your business. But you know what? We always can learn something from the bad and the uglies and turn them into good. And that's what collaboration, and that's why we're all here to support one another. And that's why we see ourselves as one big team. A team is together, everyone achieves more. So again, so we put all heads together, there's so much more, all of our heads together will definitely achieve a lot more than just one trying to think on its own. And so, so what we're going to end up doing today is work on building successful habits. So building the database, script practice, lead generation, and also contract practice, which that part we're actually not going to work on today, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. So as we want to start out today, here's a quote for you. Check this out. People do not decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their future. So it is really, really important to develop really good habits. And when I say that, I mean, when you had a 9 to 5 job, you probably had things that were already in position. And some of you may actually have one of those jobs now where you actually have to be someplace at a specific time. So you plan your day in advance. You get your clothes ready, you make sure they're pressed and ready to go. You might even meal prep the day before. You make sure your car's got gas in it the day before. You set your alarm the next morning so that you can get up, and you have to be someplace at a designated time. That, by the way, is also accountability, right? So what happens is, but that creates a good habit for you. And so what happens is, but now you're a business owner. So as a business owner, do you still meal prep the day before? Are you still getting gas the day before? Are you still pressing your clothes and making sure you're ready to go? Does that alarm go off at the same time? If you're a 4 a.m., gym, enthusiast, are you still going to the gym at 4 a.m.? Or is it, I'm a business owner. If I get up about 8, 9 o'clock, whenever I just happen to get up, I'm not going to set an alarm, and I'll just get up, take my shower, mosey on into the office, 10, 11 o'clock for the day. Bad habits, and they can happen so quickly without a level of accountability in place to keep you on mark for your goals. And so that's where accountability is going to come in. We're going to dive a whole lot deeper into that, but that came to mind as I saw that this quote right here. And so people do not decide their futures, they decide their habits, and their habits will decide their future. I love that quote. And that is from The One Thing. Gary Keller quotes F.M. Alexander, who's an educator and thespian. So the goal for today's session is to develop a plan on how to use your time more effectively. We talked about time blocking a moment ago. So, and as you've heard the mission statement of Keller Williams, it's to build a career worth having, businesses worth owning, a life worth living, experiences worth giving, and a legacy worth leaving on to future generations. And this, if you follow the model, you can basically see how each one of these is going to play out. So, and it all starts with habits, good habits. Start good habits now that will ultimately create the future that you want for yourself and for your families. So by the end of today's module, you will have updated your 411. We're going to work on block time in your calendar and developing an accountability plan, because that's huge, with your accountability partner. Have you guys already divvied up and actually have accountability partners already? Have you already kind of chosen people? Somebody speak up. No. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. So that's why I wanted to kind of get a feel. I wasn't sure if you'd already kind of gone through that metric already. So we're going to talk about that today, because that is very, very important for success in this industry. So now what we're going to talk about here is some time blocking activities. And this is kind of an overview. So what do you think successful agents actually do every day? So let's kind of hear from you. What do you think successful agents do every day?
Lead gen.
Lead gen, absolutely. Without somebody to transact with, you're definitely not going to close the deal, right? So lead gen, what's another good one? I see lunch on there. Does that mean that's a good habit? That's there for a reason, and I'll explain.
It is if you're like me and get hangry.
There you go. Oh, yes, I love that. So building successful habits begins with actually time blocking, because as we have a bold law, which you may have not been expressed into that as of yet, but you will. But we have a bold law that if it's not on your schedule, it doesn't exist. So that's why these little sticky notes were invented, because we forget things. And so if you're like me, I used to have sticky notes laying all over my desk, and I was so disorganized. So I became very organized, and I learned the proper formatting for block time. And that's what we want to teach you, because it allows you to compress your time down to the things that are most important, to what we call the MMAs, money-making activities. So you can fill your day with a lot of activity, but it's how much of that activity is actually going to bring you the success that you're looking for, that's going to push you closer to your goals and actually make the money that you're looking to make for yourself and your family. So it definitely starts with creating good habits. So at the beginning of the day, you should get motivated by reviewing your goals and your plan for the day, okay? Motivating activities can obviously vary from person to person. And so you have to choose activities that you focus on that get you energized for the day. So it's always a good idea to actually review your schedule even the day before, and then revisit it the morning of. The night before actually prepares you for the day, because you're a business owner, right? So if you're a business owner, you need to know what you need, what's on your plot plan for tomorrow. So think about it. If you owned a donut shop, for example, when to discover that you need to order more supplies or more donuts or chocolate for the donuts is not the morning that you need to make them. So you need to look at what your schedules look like way in advance to kind of see what that schedule looks like and make sure that things are on your schedule that are going to propel your business forward. So looking at it the night before and also the morning of will actually get you excited for the things that you need to do for the day. And the thing is it's a matter of making the activities throughout your day actually exciting in and of themselves. Some people look at it, yeah, I'm getting up today and I got to sit there and cold call all day. Boy, I'm looking forward to that. Mindset. You need to have that right mindset. Like, I can't wait to get up today and I can't wait to prospect today. Why can't I wait to prospect and cold call? And why can't I just wait for those objections to come through? Because every no stands for next opportunity. Somebody out there wants to buy or sell that just hasn't met you yet. And the only way that they're going to meet you is if you connect with them. And we're going to talk about different methods of connectivity as well. It's not just cold calling, by the way. We're in the digital age. So there's definitely other platforms to use. But what is it that's going to get you excited for your day? You've got to get your energy going. And so a lot of times we'll have what's called power sessions, or we'll have, affirmations, because they ring so true in our minds. They really get us amped up and ready to just go out and serve for the day. And that's what we're in this industry. This is a service industry. And it really a relationship service industry. So that should excite you. And again, if you think more along the line of serving the people and not so much on the money itself, because you know what? People can smell commission breath a mile away, seriously. But if you go, oh, this guy's just into it for the money. He's just trying to push me into a sale and into a home I'm not really looking to buy. This guy just wants a commission. So when you look beyond that, and you actually put the needs of your clients above that of your own, that will start to streamline through, and all of a sudden you're out just pouring your heart and everything that you are into your clients, and all of a sudden you're going to get client after client, referral, listing after listing, buyer after buyer, and all of a sudden you're creating a momentum that's completely unstoppable, because you're just being you and being authentic and genuine in your business. And that is so transparent in this industry, especially in an industry where you're selling a property that somebody is going to commit to a 30-year loan. And the most expensive expense that most families have on their agenda is that mortgage payment, right? And you have a big part of that. So that's an exciting part of the journey, and that should definitely get you amped up and ready to roll. So that's talking about what our schedules look like. And so what we actually need to do is when we look at, give it a quick second here to jump back on there. Wanted to go to that. Okay, so here's the thing. How many of you have ever worked right through lunch before? Me, I've definitely worked through lunch before. How many of you have ever worked right through your family time? It's so easy to do in this industry. It really is. And so you know what? Block time that. In fact, that should be the first thing that you actually block time, is your family time and your you time. The me time, as we refer to, put that on there and work your business around it. And all of a sudden, you're going to really, really enjoy working in this business and in your industry. But if all of a sudden you feel you're a slave to it and you've got no time to eat and you've got no time for your family, unfortunately, that's where agents just toss in the towel. They say, you know what, this is just too hard. It's not worth it. It's all a matter of perspective, and it's all a matter of really gearing down and learning the models and systems that we teach. Because if you follow the methods, you can and will be successful in this industry. Take a look at where and how Keller Williams has become the #1, real estate franchise there is, because the models work, and there are millionaires, multiple millionaires all over the planet that are following this model. And so we want to mirror after other people's successes, because if it worked for them, it can definitely work for you. So moving on here to our next segment here. Give the screen a second here to catch up. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is setting weekly and daily objectives. Okay, so we're going to look at how successful agents incorporate daily successful habits more into their day to achieve their goals. So in order to achieve our goals, we actually have to have them written out, because kind of like that diary that we talked about. If they're not written down, you may need to even review that to remotivate yourself, because let's face it, have you ever gotten up for the day and just had a headache and just didn't feel like doing much of anything and just kind of a downer day? I think if we're real with each other, I think we've all had those days, right? So it's kind of like, what is going to motivate me to get out of bed each and every day and work towards a goal that might be so far out here? It's like, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't, right? So what happens is when they stare you in the face, I actually have my pin to the wall. I'm looking up at it right now. It's staring me right in the face, my 411 and my GPS. And by staring at that all day long while I am working, it motivates me to see that's my goal, that's my journey, and this is what I need to do to get there. So I would highly recommend that for you. Put these someplace where you can actually see them. And it's important for it to actually be written in like even your own handwriting as well. So you can see that your mind was really fixated upon setting those goals. And now it's a matter of achieving those goals. So one way to do this is obviously by doing the 411 every week, and then turning those goals into daily and weekly objectives. And so that's what we're going to be talking about next here. So how many of you have done a 411 within the last week? Hold it up. Mine's blank, only because I'm looking at your material. So I'll tell you what, let's revisit the 411. So how many of you have your participant guide? Did you guys have that? You should have it for today.
Yes.
The one that says Ignite Spark 9. If you open that book up that you should have, and onto page 3, there is a 411 action goal worksheet, okay? And on that action goal worksheet, it basically looks something like this, as you can see on the screen there, where you have what's considered your annual goals, okay? So your annual goal is obviously that's gonna look different for everybody. And on your annual goal, it's like, okay, what is it that I would like to accomplish or achieve this year? And that annual goal could be something for your business. I want to sell 30 homes this year. Maybe one of your goals for this year is more is on the personal, which I would recommend as well. Maybe that's, I want to take the kids to, Disney, Florida, if it's opened up. Someplace exciting, maybe some travel, adventure that you've been looking to do, but it's going to take time and it's going to take money and resources in order to get there. That's a goal, and that's a great goal to work towards. Highly recommend that you put that down. So rather than have you guys take the time to actually do this right now on this call, I'm going to highly recommend that you work on completing the 411 action goal sheet. And then I'm also going to flash up on the screen here. I don't have it on this screen I have as an example, but I'll put it in the chat here before we end the call. We'll take a short break, probably around 11:15ish or so. And during that time, I'll put that in the chat box for you guys, a sample that Nick actually provided to me of his. But it's great. And so when you take your annual goals, obviously that's 12 months. What we need to do is break that down into what we call monthly goals. So what has to happen each and every month, collectively, month after month, that by the time you finish that 12th month, you've now completed your annual goal. And that sounds great on a monthly basis. Let's scale that down even further. What do you need to do on a weekly basis? And we've kind of chunked that down into four weeks in a month. Sometimes there's a little over, but 4 weeks, what do you need to do every single week in order to accomplish that goal? And we even have a further metric actually in our economic model, which we'll teach you at a later segment, that actually chunks it down into what you need to do every day to actually complete the weekly activities into monthly activities, the monthly activities into annual activities, and ultimately fulfilling the goals. So we have to go really big, and we have to think really big and then chunk it down to really small. What are the baby steps that I need to do in order to reach that destination? And so the wonderful thing about the 411, it actually takes us on a journey in our mind. And I say that because we have two different tools. We have the 411 and the GPS. Our GPS tool coincides with this 411 tool, and it works just like the GPS and like your car. It's to take you to a destination that you have never been to before. Otherwise, you wouldn't be using the GPS, right? So what happens is, how do you get to a destination that you've never been to in your mind? And so that's what this is. This tool has helped to design and actually really help to core it down and put those down and say, okay, what does it take in order to accomplish this on a monthly, weekly, daily basis? And now that becomes your block time schedule. All those activities become your block time activities that if you follow the schedule, you will accomplish those goals. And so that's why we wanted to talk first about the block timing so that you can become familiar with what needs to be on your schedule, okay? And so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna talk about chunking that down, because look, we can fill our daily activities with so much activities that we really don't get anything done. Have you ever experienced that where like you've been really, really busy on a given day and you've had like 90 things to do and you've actually got a lot done, but at the end of the day, you say to yourself, man, I didn't get anything done today. Well, you actually did, but the problem is the activities that you were doing might not have been the activities that you needed to focus on that's actually going to move you closer to your goals. And so that's where we want to talk about committing to the 80-20 principle. How many of you ever heard of the 80-20 principle? Show of hands. Anybody? There's no hands going up, so I'm guessing you haven't seen that before. It's a very easy concept, actually, when we put it into perspective here. So the 80-20 principle helps us to realize the activities that are most important in the effort that we need to drive. So in this industry, we refer to activities that are most pressing for our business and success to be what we call big rocks. So a big rock, what would you think would be a big rock in this industry that you would need to do on a daily basis?
Lead gen.
Lead gen, you got it, lead generation. So that's a big rock. So that should be on the forefront of your schedule. We call that front loading your schedule. So you always want to front load your daily part of your schedule, and even your week should be front loaded as well with the biggest rocks. But you know what? We are common human beings that it's like, let me do the easy stuff first just because it's easy. And I'll just do the easy stuff and then I'll worry about the hard stuff later. And that's so easy to do. And what happens is because sometimes hard stuff is not easy to do, it's hard, right? Or it's too time consuming in our mind to actually try to move those big rocks. So it's like, I don't know, I'll just do the easy stuff. But here's the problem and the danger with that. And again, we're talking about creating good daily habits. Let's say you have all these different activities on your list of things to do for today, and you start working on all the easy stuff, okay? Then we have lunch. How many of you have ever had that like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I need a Starbucks coffee like moment, that like me? I think we all do. We start slowing down throughout the course of the day. So could you imagine if you're going to be on your highest note of prospecting at 3 and 4 in the afternoon when you're like dog tired, you've already got so much and you're all, I did so much already today. Man, I still got a prospect. You know what? I'll just do that tomorrow. Guess what? You didn't prospect today. Why? Because you tried to work on the little rocks instead of the big rocks first. So again, it's the 80-20 principle where we want to talk about putting 20% effort to move the big rocks. And in doing so, that's what we call leverage. It's actually going to make a lot of the other stuff become a lot easier throughout the course of the day because you got that big rock moved out of the way. So 20% effort is to equal 80% results, which is to make more money and have more time and be more energized to be with your family. So at the end of the day, that's why we are in this industry. You know, we work to live, we don't live to work. And I think you can agree with me on that one, right? So in the 80-20 principle, when our actions are not focused on the 20% that matters, then we don't get the results that we want. The 80-20 principle, you know, may be counterintuitive, but it does work. And the converse of 80-20 principle rule is 80% of the effort yields 20% of the results. And so it's really, really important that whenever you're chunking down your list of things to do, and here's a real easy example for you. If you were to write down everything that you need to do today, everything, all the way to pick up the kids, to making dinner, to mowing the yard, to prospecting, to filling out, you know, listing presentation, and just everything. I need to attend this training. If you chunked all that down and put that on a list, and then you now look at this exhaustive list, looking through it and say, all right, which one of these activities on here is actually going to make me some money today or move me towards making money today? all of a sudden you're going to realize a lot of that stuff on your list is fluff. It is actually, it needs to get done, yes, but it's time blocking, front loading your schedule with the biggest rocks first. And once you do that, the carryover is going to be a whole lot easier, but you got to follow the process to really comprehend how that's going to work for you. So who can think of some other big rocks that you would need to move in your real estate business? What comes to mind?
Follow-up.
Lead follow-up. Yes, those are big follow-ups as well, because that is part of the prospecting. We have what's called Mets and haven't Mets. Mets are the people that you've met, right? Haven't Mets are the people that you haven't met. So it's a really easy example if you're taking notes there. So here's the thing. If we're going to add 10 new people to our database every single day, how can you add somebody if you already know them, right? Well, they should already be in your database if you actually already know them. But if they don't, then add them. But the whole idea is you need to focus on getting new people into your database, people you actually haven't met before. Because like I said earlier, there's somebody out there that needs to buy and sell. They just haven't met you yet. So introduce yourself to them. There's a lot of different ways to introduce yourself, and we're going to talk about that as far as lead generation is concerned. But that's all part of that process. Yes, absolutely. Lead follow-up is huge with making sure that you are going to really accomplish your goals for this year. It's not just built upon, the new people that you meet, because let's face it, when you make a call to somebody today, does that mean they're ready to list their home with you today? No. But now you've introduced yourself. Great opportunity for rapport building, great opportunity to put them into your command, great opportunity to put them on a smart plan, to follow up with them. And now you actually get to know them. They get to know you. Then all of a sudden, now when it comes time for them to list their home, guess who they're thinking about? You, because you're the only one that took the time to really care about them and wasn't thinking about that commission check. You were actually thinking about building a relationship with somebody that's going to turn into a transaction where you become their realtor for life. And not only that though, but now they're going to tell all their friends and family what a fantastic real estate professional that you are. And look at all the referrals that you will attract. I know several agents in this industry where the majority of their business comes from referrals and their follow-up from people they've known for many, many years. They just weren't ready to buy or sell yet. So lead generation and includes actually the follow-up process, because that's also part of the prospecting, is because when you're prospecting, it's to get them into a contract, right? To close a sale and to actually sell a home. So that's really what it talks about, chunking down in committing to the 80-20 rule. So now what we need to do is we need to talk about setting our objectives. Setting your objectives looks like this. Is it on your screen? Yep. Okay. So setting your objectives, we start with identifiable. And you've heard the term coming full circle, right? And so that's why this example is exactly that. It's to come full circle. So when we talk about our goals, it needs to be identifiable, whatever your metric is. And so to be identifiable means, what is your goal? Why do you do what you do? What is your big why? Why are you in this industry? Why do you get up every day and prospect? Why do you want to sell homes? Only you know that answer. It's going to be different for everyone. And so again, having a goal, having a 411 and being able to chunk that down is very, very important. So page number 5, if you go to page number 5 in your book, it actually talks about what we're identifying right now. It needs to be identifiable. What is your goal? Metric driven, attainable, purposeful, and timely. And so when you look at the Monday through Friday elements of your schedule, that's what this is here for you to kind of jot down what your thoughts are about that. So when we talk about the day in the life of a real estate agent, it's having a plan, okay? Because it's not just having a plan, but executing the plan that you have set. Okay, so when you develop daily habits, you focus on how to measure progress towards your goals that you have identified. So what will happen is this: if I were to say, how long did you lead generate today? It was about maybe, I don't know, an hour and a half. Perfect. How many dials did you make? Oh gosh, I don't know. I have to go back and look at my phone. How many people actually picked up the phone? I don't know. How many people did you actually talk to? Don't really know. What happens is if you chase that rabbit, you'll not have a metric to really measure against, right? So it's a matter of having, and we have sheets for you as well for lead generation and prospecting for making contacts. So when you're making contacts, a contact is just that, it's a two-way communication. So if you send a text message to me and I don't reply, we haven't had a conversation. But if I reply to you, now we've had a conversation, right? So that's what we're talking about as far as having goals that are identifiable so that you know exactly how to measure your progress. So metric driven, how will you measure your progress towards the attainment of the goals that you set? Do you have the correct systems and tools in place for success? Depends on what your objective is. If I'm going to build a swimming pool and I don't own a shovel, I'm never going to build that swimming pool, right? Although it takes a lot more than a shovel, right? A backhoe, whatever I need, right? All referring to, you have to have right tools for this industry. So for instance, you need a laptop, you need a bunker by which, you know, when I say a bunker, like kind of like your zone of getting into prospecting, you've got to have the right tools and resources available to you, which you have a lot of them already. You've got Command, great tool. You've got the consumer app, you've got the Kelly app. You have all these different tools and resources that are available to you to be able to utilize to propel your business to the place that you want it to go. And then also purposeful. Is your goal in alignment with your monthly, weekly, and annual goals? And so that's very, very important that you revisit your goals on a weekly basis, actually, so that you can make sure that you're on track. Have you ever noticed that when you program a destination into your GPS, that sometimes the GPS takes you one way, but you traveling down the street, it told you and it says detour, and now you've got to kind of route around and it kind of like it says recalculating. That's what happens in our day-to-day journey and even in your business. And that's why revisiting your 411, looking at your goals and looking at what course corrections might need to be made along the way, that's huge. And then lastly, it needs to be timely. And as you see, this is how it comes full circle here, is for it to be timely, you need to ask yourself, when is this goal actually going to be accomplished? So we talk about, you know, having annual goals, which is a good place, but maybe for you, maybe it's a 3-year journey that you'd like to actually own your own home. Or maybe you'd like to actually have your home, maybe you own a home and you want to have it completely paid off, but not on a 15-year note or a 30-year note. Maybe you've got a different journey. Maybe that's a different goal for you. And only really you know what that is, but have a measurement by which that you can track that. It's really, really important. And these examples that we're giving to you are really what's going to carry you through your business as you chunk through the day in life of a real estate professional. So that's why we want to talk about that. Moving down to time blocking. So we talked a little bit about time blocking already. Give it a second for the screen to update here. Here we go. So when we talk about time blocking, it's simply dedicating specific periods of time and, you know, with a specific purpose. Obviously, like we talked about, putting the big rocks on your calendar first, making a commitment to preserve that time. And some key tips to remember when time blocking are block the most important tasks first. So if you're writing notes, make sure you write that down. Block the most important tasks first, AKA big rocks, right? So don't time block every minute of your day. Otherwise, your phone will be pinging every minute of the day and drive you absolutely nuts. So chunk it down into those items that are most important to you. I actually have a slot that I just call personal time on my calendar. And that reminds me of all the other like non-essential activities I need to do. And that might mean maybe going to the grocery store, picking up the dry cleaning, just other like non-essential business stuff. But it's on my calendar as a reminder for me to do it, because I'll just end up working right into that time slot. And then again, slot some time in there for your family as well. Slot some time in there for you. That's very, very important. You need to recharge and have those opportunities to refocus. And whichever methods that you choose to do that, some people, it's maybe reading the Bible for some scripture, maybe finding a good book, going through the MREA, Whatever you utilize, maybe it's a time of meditation and reflection upon the journey that you've traveled thus far. Definitely take those opportunities and put that in your block time. I know that we've taught many agents to, even in the middle of your day, maybe even schedule a break. So if you're actually at the office, let's say all day long and you're prospecting, put a time block, even if it's for 15 minutes, just to go take a break, go outside, just go walk around for a minute, recapture your thoughts and re-energize yourself to carry out the rest of your day. Because otherwise you're just going to be just lollygagging and just kind of dragging through. And that's definitely not going to help you in the long run. And unfortunately, it creates bad habits. And what we're trying to teach you is how to create good habits, right? So any questions with any of the content that we've gone through thus far? I want to give you a quick opportunity here to ask any questions. And again, at any given time, feel free to just unmute yourself and, interrupt me, and just, if you got to have a question, because I want to definitely make sure that we address those as we go.
What are your big rocks?
My big rocks. Well, I actually am in production as well as in leadership. And so my big rocks, I'll talk about the production ones just because that will align with you, is actually what we talked about. It's actually the lead generation. It's my prospecting time. And I make sure that those are on my schedule, is what I call a non-negotiable, which means nothing moves this except for one thing, an appointment. And let me explain. Why do we lead generate? To get an appointment. That appointment is now going to lead to a contract, which will eventually lead to a closing. So the only thing is, if I happen to have a time block schedule in the morning, and let's say my time block schedule is 8 to 11 or 8 to 12, whatever I chunk it down for that given day, and I kind of change it up a little bit, and I'll explain why. If all of a sudden I have a 10 a.m. listing appointment, but I look on my calendar and it says that's my prospecting time, and you told me that was immovable, like real estate. So why is it that you're moving that around? Because that's the purpose of prospecting. What I can always do is move my prospecting down. Not that I'm going to give it up for the day, but I just realign it to a later point in the day. And so what'll happen is this: if you're calling and you're reaching out to, whether it's lead generation through, either cold calling or maybe lead follow-up, there are some people that you're just not going to reach in the morning. Maybe they're a professional, they're a doctor, a lawyer, in the service industry where, their day just starts early. You're probably not going to catch them if you try to connect with them early in the day. So those people you may actually be successful with connecting with later in the day. So my prospecting time, we talk about the big rocks, is I'll set aside my prospecting for a chunk in the morning on one day, evening on the other, morning, evening. So that way there, I'm cross-checking that to make sure that I have reached out to people when they're going to be most available. And again, since we're in the technology age, texting, email, Facebook Messenger, any of the messenger apps or anything that are out there, and obviously just a simple phone call. A lot of times people, depending upon what they're doing, are not necessarily going to be in a position where they want to talk about buying or selling their home if they're in the middle of a project or at work or something. So, definitely staying on them, calling them, texting them, being on top of them is definitely a good way. But those are my big rocks. I definitely want to make sure that the lead generation and prospecting is definitely a prominent rock that needs to be moved on a daily basis. Anyone else have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say that this is where the confusion comes for me.
Okay.
Because if you call, and then you don't follow up, then I find that there is not fun and it's not good. So would that be part of your lead gen, following up? That's where my confusion comes, because, okay, so I say, okay, I'm going to do 3 hours calling, and then I do generate business and people starts calling me back, and then I have to text them back, set the appointments and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be part of that lead gen, or should I just, okay, so I'm calling 1 hour in the morning and I'm not going to stop. I'm calling and I'm speaking to people. I'm going to set up appointments, but within that hour, or within those 3 hours, the calls that you did within that hour, in the first hour, they start calling you. And what do? You wait until tomorrow to respond, or what do you do?
Well, keep in mind that time is of urgency in this industry. And so what happens is we don't want to miss that next opportunity. So if you've reached out to them and they're getting back to you, I would highly recommend that you get back to them as quickly as you reasonably can. When you're actually on dial mode and you're actually reaching out to people, definitely I have a time where I'm making all of my outgoing calls. And then obviously, since you're reaching out to people, like you just said, they're calling in at some point because they got a missed call or they just weren't available. And so I'll do what's like my outgoing calls, then I'll or for making outgoing, for reaching out to them. And then also exactly what you said, having a time for that follow-up where I'm calling them back now. Okay. So that's all part of that process. And so you can actually chunk that down, which says for the first hour, let's just say, like you said, I'm going to cold call. So the whole purpose of the cold calling is actually to get them on the phone, to have a two-way conversation and build that rapport and get them into contract, right? But let's say they're not in a position to do that, or you're calling people, you left a message and now they're going to call you back, but now you're still on the phone making outgoing calls. I would definitely get back with them within a reasonable time frame, within, let's say, that hour or so.
Yeah.
Okay, did that help to clarify your question?
It helps a little. It helps a little. Thank you.
Okay.
It just looks so perfect, when you say, okay, though, let's time blocking, let's call.
Right.
But once you start calling and you have a whole bunch of people calling you all day long,
Right.
and answering calls and text messages and answering questions and all these things. So do you stop that, or because that's where I'm at right now. I'm like all day long answering to people, setting up appointments, things like that. So I want to make it a little bit more structure.
Gotcha. And I don't know if you realize this, but you just defined the realtor's dream. If you're that engaged on the phone and you're setting appointments and you're having two-way conversations with that many people, congratulations, you're actually successfully doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're lead generating, and that's exactly, you're building that rapport, building those relationships. That's exactly what your job is. That's exactly what you should be doing. And so if that takes all day to do, by all means do it, because that is going to turn those people into a transaction. And that's what's going to actually close a sale and actually help to add to fulfilling your goals and financial needs for your family. So I always say that in the absence of an appointment, this is my block time schedule. Maybe that will help to clarify. You have to have a standard by which that you follow, but obviously you have to realize, why am I setting this schedule? It's to get the appointment. Once I get the appointment, now it's conversion to actually close them, right? Which training comes into play, and role playing and scripting. So that's the whole purpose why we lead generate. So if lead generation actually just takes you through the entire day, congratulations, because it's kind of like fishing. If I go out to a lake on a given day and I throw one pole in the water with one type of bait, I might actually catch a fish, okay? But if I go to the lake and I throw like 6 different lines in the water spread about 20 feet apart from each other, they all have different bait on the end of them, and one of them sunk to the bottom, one's sitting up towards the top, I have now increased my chances 6 times, right, of the possibility of catching a fish or multiple fish throughout the course of a day. So again, what you just described is I may not have to spend all day fishing if I have 6 lines in the water at the same time, because I'm catching a lot of fish really quickly. And so what you just described is almost like the perfect schedule for a real estate agent, is to stay connected with people. That's what we do as realtors. We have to stay connected with people. So congratulations, you're actually doing it right.
Yeah, thank you for that. But it gets tiring.
Oh, absolutely. No, and that's
the point. It gets very tiring. It's very how do you say, it wears you out, So I'm like, okay, so should I just not? Okay, I want to time block. I want to get back to these people. But I guess I have to deal with myself, because I feel bad that I don't call them back, and that's my thing. When they call me, I want to call them right away. I am meeting right now and I got 3 phone calls. I'm texting and I'm like, shoot, I need to stop this. I need to concentrate. And So I guess it's like more this time blocking is going to help me, right? To
Time
do-
blocking would definitely help with that, absolutely. And then also maybe even kind of, maybe even some mentoring and coaching along the way to kind of, because everybody's going to be uniquely different. We can kind of describe different scenarios, kind of globally on a call like this, but everybody's, engagement in their business is going to be slightly different in what that looks like for you and the type of calls. And so ultimately, we want you to be successful. And in doing so, yes, it is exhausting. And so, but the thing is if it's exhausting, the question is, why is it exhausting? Are you actually closing the appointment? Are you actually making appointments, closing the appointment? Are you actually getting them in contract? So what we have to do is chunk down as to why is that exhausting for you, and kind of chunk that down and make it to where it's not exhausting, that you actually look forward to having all those people return those calls. So we can talk a little bit more later about that if you want to core down a little bit more refined on that, okay?
Thank you, Tom. Yes.
You're very, very welcome. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to creating accountability. So accountability, like I said earlier, is really, really big in this industry. And so it's really, really important that we have a metric of accountability. So we've already walked through growing and running your business, setting weekly and daily objectives, and now we're at creating accountability. Waiting for that next screen to pop up. Sorry about that. Creating accountability. And if you'll turn to page 6 on your guide, there's a sheet there that talks about creating accountability as well. We're going to be reflecting upon that. But be accountable. So it kind of brings me back to my earlier example of when you worked, or if you do work for somebody else, there's already a metric of accountability in place because you work for somebody else. But how do you keep yourself accountable when you work for you? And so it's really important to stay focused and actually have somebody that you have actually given permission to keep you accountable. Because when you allow somebody to keep you accountable, that is what's going to allow you to excel to your next level within your business and actually allow you to get through your day a lot easier. It's actually good to kind of feel some of that resistance. Okay. It's kind of like going to the gym. You've been on the treadmill for a bit and then you kind of increase the resistance a little bit, makes you a little bit stronger to have that resistance, right? Same thing with working out with weights. If you go to work out with weights and all you do is use little 5-pound dumbbells, yeah, you'll eventually get stronger, but that more and more resistance that you add and the more repetitions that you put in there, the stronger you're going to become. No different than in your business. We need some resistance in our business. And sometimes that resistance comes from people sparring us. People, you can do it. Just keep doing it. You need to be here. If we're going to meet at the gym, we're going to meet at the gym at 6 o'clock. So if you're going by yourself, you might get there at 6:10, 6:20, maybe not even go at all. But if you're meeting somebody, you'll probably be there. So you don't let them down. So that's why in this business, using that as an example, we want to have an accountability partner, somebody that you've given permission to keep you accountable to the goals that you have established for yourself. So accountability is really an attitude of an approach, okay? Accountability is a tool for achieving results. And accountability is a dynamic cycle, not a static concept, okay? It's active, not passive. So as you see the cycle here on your screen, you set the goals, you do the key activities, they have to have measured results, then you evaluate the progress that you've made. It's kind of like you go to the gym, you've been working out, you're like sweating, you go home and you stand on that scale and say, I didn't lose any weight at all. Well, I just got home from the gym, I only did it one time, right? Expecting these massive results off of a one-time opportunity at the gym, right? So again, that's why it's a cycle. We got to keep at it. We got to keep at it. We got to get some resistance in there. We got to keep practicing our scripts. We have to keep doing the daily grind. And then all of a sudden it creates a cycle that becomes second nature to you, where almost after a while, you really don't have to think about it because you've now cored down what your business looks like and it just flows and it's picking up momentum. So if you've ever watched that, what's that movie? It's a Harrison Ford movie, The Fugitive. I'm sure you've probably seen it. It's kind of old, but there's one scene where this train is rolling her down the track and the locomotive becomes detached and plows into the hillside, and all these cars just come plowing into the back of it, like all these massive explosions and stuff like that. That's because there was so much momentum and force behind that train that was the end result. It just comes crashing down. It was hard to stop, in other words. So your business works much like that locomotive. It's kind of like once you get that momentum going, you're unstoppable. And if you have that mindset that I'm unstoppable and nothing is going to slow me down and nothing is going to impede my path of success on this journey that I'm taking in my real estate career, that is the right mindset, and nothing will slow you down. And you don't let obstacles overcome you. You plow right through them. And you know what? No one succeeds alone in this business. And so it's okay to ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. And so, asking for help is definitely a sign of strength. I'm sure that you've probably heard that before in some of the affirmations that we say. Asking for help is definitely a sign of strength. And so don't be afraid of that. Excuse me. So it's important to understand that accountability is a crucial part of achieving your goals. When you report to someone else of the progress that you've made towards your goals, then you gain even a greater focus, and your level of motivation actually increases, not decreases. So think about accountability as a process. It's difficult to maintain a drive over the long term, but when you have to defend your activities to an objective observer, it now becomes easier to stay focused, because now I got to report those numbers. They're going to be asking me for this because I've given them permission to keep me accountable. And this is what I need for me. Some people have different levels of accountability. They need a lot of accountability. Others, it's kind of like, they're moving along, they're meeting the numbers. And when I see the numbers, it's like, hey, they're actually doing pretty good. And they're actually pretty self-disciplined to do that. But not everybody is self-disciplined. And even those that have a great level of self-discipline still need someone to help keep them accountable, because you're self-employed, you are your own business. And the only way that you're going to really accomplish your goals and actually keep you on track is if somebody is helping you along the way. So that's why we have coaching, for example. We have mentoring, we have different coaching that's available as well. It's for that very process. It's because some people definitely need help with that as they move along. So move down to the next screen here. Looking at accountability. So share your goals. What are your long, medium, and short-term goals? And again, using that 411 that you guys have is a great tool by which to measure that. Plan your check-ins. How often are you going to check in with someone? What is it that you're actually reporting when you check in with someone? How often do you need to check in? What's that method of communication look like for you? And then make a date. When and where will you meet to check in? Now, again, this course was designed before COVID. Actually, it was designed actually right when COVID hit, actually, believe it or not. So, so as far as when and where will you meet, the where, you can still meet obviously on a Zoom call. If you do, through your phone, video chat, or if you just want to make a phone call. Definitely face-to-face definitely changes the element of the conversation. That's why I was asking, to be on the screen if at all possible, because having a face-to-face communication with somebody definitely helps to kind of reaffirm your goals within yourself, because it's kind of hard. You never look somebody in the eye and they don't want to tell you something. They kind of like look away. Super easy, because you're not looking at them anymore. So that's what having a blank screen does, the same thing. I'm looking at you, but you're not looking at me, right? So it's important that when you have an accountability partner, that you're actually someplace where you can have that stared face to face. I want you to hold me accountable. These are my numbers. What do I need to do? And bounce things off of each other. Perfect opportunity to role play a script with each other as well, by the way, whoever your accountability partner is. Seize the moment, right? So what we're going to do is have an opportunity for you guys. I was trying to think that through, just because we're on a Zoom call as opposed to in a room, I would say, why don't you partner up with somebody like whoever you're seated next to and exchange numbers and create an accountability partner. But I'll talk to Nick about probably the best practice for doing that with our current audience here, those of you that are going through the Ignite course. But to create accountability partners within each other. And maybe some of you have already kind of teamed up. Maybe you know each other already prior to coming to the office, but a great opportunity for you to have an accountability partner. And that, again, accountability partner could be utilized for also role playing and scripting as well. So let me go down to the next screen here. Actually, you know what? Go to page 6 of the sheet that I gave you. And it actually talks about the various, those various breakdown questions that I gave you. You know, what are your partner's goals? It's important to write that down. What are your partner's goals? The reason why you want to write that down as to what are your partner's goals, because sometimes they need revisiting. Remind me why I'm doing this every day. Why am I putting myself through this every day? And I'm not trying to say that in a negative light, but unfortunately, some people can take it down that path. And so I want to speak to everybody when I say that, because let's face it, not every day, everybody wakes up every day all happy and chipper and ready to go every day, right? Because life is life. Things happen in our life. You know, death happens in our families and friends, and people lose their jobs. They've had, they have accidents. People get COVID. I mean, there's a number of different things that can definitely mess with our mind and definitely keep us off focus. That it's kind of like, okay, remind me, what were we talking about again? So that's why it's definitely good to have accountability partners. And again, to kind of revisit your goals. Ask them, how's things been going? How are you doing on making your prospects for the day? You know, well, you know what? I'm not really able to get and chunk through my hour. It's just, I've had so many disruptions. I'm trying to work from home. The dog's barking at me. The kids are screaming, and it's really hard for me to stay focused. Or I've got such limited time before I've got to get onto my secondary job for the day, the one that's actually making me money right now. So it's like, how do I divide my time and everything? So again, to have a plot plan, a journey, your goals, and have somebody revisit those goals with you is really, really important. And then again, how often will you check in? For some people, that's daily. For some people, it's maybe twice a week. For some people, it's maybe once a week. Only you can really answer that. And then how will you meet? And then what is the date and time location of your first accountability check-in? So highly recommend that on this particular page here, that we partner up with somebody, and let's definitely gather accountability partnerships with your peers. And sometimes if schedules don't align, you can always have maybe a couple different accountability partners. That's huge. So any questions in reference to accountability? Anything at all? Okay. So we're going to run down through here. So this is where we're going to do a little bit of a recap right now, the ahas to achievement. So as we recap what we've kind of been going through here today, what have been some of the ahas? What are some of the things that, like, you know what? I need to start doing that. I haven't been doing that. Anything jump out at you that you'd like to share with anyone?
Definitely time blocking for me.
Wonderful. Time blocking. Yes, absolutely. What else?
For me, it's having accountability.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, because that's huge. That's actually a bold for some people to actually admit that they need accountability. I feel that we all need accountability. And so it's not the easiest thing, because it's like, so for some people, it's like that's why they go to work for themselves, so that they don't feel like there's somebody always harping over them, or always somebody that they have to answer to all the time. It's like, answer to me now, you know, type of thing. But you know what? We need that in order to succeed in our business. It's huge. So thank you for sharing that. What about this? How has your thinking changed? What ideas or mindsets are new for you? Anything come to mind on that?
I like the way this puts everything together that we've been studying in the class, and it puts it together in a way that's organized and clear, very straightforward.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, our mindset has everything to do with our success. And that's why a lot of the courses that we teach, usually segment number 1 is all about mindset. So you'll be introduced to BOLD if you haven't already at some point. Day number 1, it's all about motivation. It's all mindset. When we had BOLD Pivot, that was also chunked down the same way. Those of you who have read the Shift book or have gone through a Shift training class, day number 1, tactic number 1 is all about shifting your mindset. We have to start with our mindset in the right direction. Otherwise, everything else for the day is just going to be negated upon whatever our mindset is. So if you've got the right mindset, you're plowing through, you're revisiting your goals, you're looking at your big why, you have an organized format by which to flow your day-to-day activities as a real estate professional, it keeps your mind in check, and all of a sudden you're rolling through. But you know what, in this industry, it is so easy for distractions to set in. What distractions would you say that you guys have experienced thus far in your real estate business? What type of distractions? Anyone? No distractions? Wow, that's pretty good.
So many personal things that come at you, you know, and if you're not making money at the moment, then, you know, in the eyes of others, it might be not as urgent.
Okay.
Yourself as well. You yourself is a distraction. Sometimes you don't want to follow up because you don't have accountability, you know, like you explained it. And
Absolutely.
just yourself.
Absolutely. We are our biggest roadblock on many occasions, believe it or not. That's why there's so much emphasis on you. It isn't, you know, it isn't supposed to be like egotistical like me, myself, and I, but you know what, unless you are on a good regimen of sleep, you have a good diet that you follow, an exercise program, and you have to get your mind in the right direction, all of that plays a big part on your level of success, because in order to get to tomorrow, you got to get through today. So how are you going to get through today? You have to have a plan. What's my plan for today? When I get up today, what's my plan? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? So having you know, a plan in place, looking at your goals, looking at that 411 like I'm looking at right now, and that GPS, it reminds me every day of my journey and why I'm on this journey. And you know what? Looking at those goals get me excited to do it. And again, it's all about the people. It's all about serving others. And that's also why I'm in leadership as well. It's all about serving others, making a difference in someone's life. That gives me so much joy every single day that I can get up and actually have the opportunity to do that. And so it motivates me to no end. And so, and at the end of the day, to actually get paid for helping somebody to get into a brand new home, that's exhilarating, and that really, really works, you know, well for me personally, and I know it does for you guys as well. And so revisiting that mindset and that motivation is huge. So let me ask you this: look at the where it says where the heart is right there. What do you feel differently about? What was meaningful to you today? Anything? What do you feel different about?
I liked the 80-20 principle and doing the large rocks first.
Nice.
That meant a lot and makes sense.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Well, that's what we're going to talk about here as our last segment. Everybody good? Does anybody need a quick little break or anything? I think some people might have just been doing it in between, but that's okay as well. So we'll keep plowing through. We're almost completed here. So we may actually finish before the allotted time, but I definitely want to allow opportunities for you guys to share if you have any questions, because, you know, again, we all learn from each other. And that's what I love so much about mastermind groups and collaboration, because what somebody else's best practices are can actually help me in my business and vice versa. So I always say something that you have to share today is definitely going to resonate with someone on this call today. and vice versa. So that's why I love these opportunities and open up the platform for you guys to share, because we all learn from each other. Absolutely. Doesn't matter who's teaching the course, we still all learn from each other. So we're going to talk about this next segment here. Goals to set your career on fire, which is interesting because how they've kind of mapped this out. And again, this is, you know, ingenuitive here, is to ignite your business starts with a spark. It only takes a spark to get a fire going, right? And so if we're going to ignite your business and get it like a roaring fire, it all begins with a spark. And so that's why I love how they've chunked this down and kind of just tied it all together. Isn't that cool? So goal setting. So in order to have your goals set to go on fire, here's what we need to do. 10 contacts added. When we say added, what does that mean? Added to your database. So you're using command. So focus on, and again, this is a goal. This should be a daily goal for you. 10 added to your database. So whether you have to reach out and you actually have to make a call to somebody else that you've never met before, or you're adding somebody that maybe is in your email account, or somebody that you've spoken to on Facebook, and now you're getting their contact information and now you're adding them. If you stay focused on adding 10 per day, just think how fast that your database is going to grow. And we often refer to our database as our data bank, because that is essentially your future bank account, is if you focus on closing transactions with everyone in your database. So that's why we refer to it as that, because again, we want to get your mind thinking in that direction. Excuse me. Check this out. The next 10 conversations per day. Okay. That's a good place to get started. Obviously, the more people you contact per day, the better opportunity you have to get someone into a transaction. Same example as the fishing pole. I can either call one person or 6 people, right? Or, you know, one fishing pole in the water or 6 poles in the water. I can either call 5 people today or 10 people today or 15 people today or 20 people a day. The more calls I make, the more opportunity there is that I'm going to get somebody into contract. So again, don't limit yourself on conversations. So when we talk about conversations, keep in mind it's a two-way conversation. So mailing something to somebody is not a two-way conversation. It's great marketing. And I know that you guys talked about the differences between, you know, marketing and prospecting. But for marketing, you're just basically setting an advertisement. It's the billboard, it's the sign on the bus stop, it's putting a flyer at somebody's door. That's marketing, but you haven't had a two-way conversation. So in order to have a conversation with somebody, and again, that's why you want to be purposeful with this, is to think, what methods can I use that's going to wedge me between the consumer? Hang out where they hang out. Where do they hang out? Social media. They hang out on emails. They hang out on text messaging. So hang out where they hang out and put yourself there and communicate to them on, you know, within those various platforms. And then since we're in the digital age, obviously those are all acceptable forms to have a two-way conversation. In previous segments years ago, it was basically, we had limited to just being on the phones, but realizing that as time has changed and as technologies come into play, and a lot of people are reverting to more of a technology-based further lines of communications, we've kind of adopted that into our classes, because it's a reality. I mean, outside of real estate, don't you text your friends? Don't you talk to your friends on social media? Of course you do. So why not utilize that opportunity to build your business as well? And I know very, very successful teams in this industry where almost all of their business comes from Facebook, communicating on Facebook. So like you walk into their office, their team office, and it's like everybody's sitting on Facebook. I'm like, anybody working today or what? They are working. They're working on Facebook all day long, and that's their business. And they've really chunked it down and really mastered that opportunity to use, you know, technology to their advantage. You have the same technology tools at your fingertips, utilizing command as well. And one of the components of commands is actually campaigns, which you can reach out to people and allow them to get back in contact with you. So again, that's a training for another opportunity, but just wanted to throw that little blip in there. Handwritten notes, 10 handwritten notes. Why do you think handwritten notes would be important to do?
More personal.
More personal, absolutely. Have you ever gone to the store and bought a birthday card and then just like sealed it up and gave it to somebody? No. And sometimes you don't just put, your friend or love always or whatever your name. Normally there's a side somewhere in like a birthday card where you actually handwrite a little note. Congratulations, one more year, you've been my best friend, or whatever it is that you want to say. It adds a personal reflection of you that is meaningful to them. Use that same concept to build rapport with the people that you're going to transact with. So it's kind of like, okay, well, what on earth do I say? I got these notes. Where do I get them? Right? Is I was like, what am I going to say on these notes? Get creative. There's a lot of different scripts that you can say. If it's somebody that you just spoke to on the phone, that's a perfect follow-up to the phone call. Hey, it was great talking with you today. And then if they talked about something like they just got a new puppy or something, congratulations on your little puppy. However you want to do to make a personal connection with them. Know that I'm here for you when you're ready to buy or sell. Keep me in mind if you know anyone that is looking to buy, sell, invest in real estate that I can serve. And that way now it triggers the thought. But it's just the fact that you took the time to write a handwritten note. And even on the outside, it's actually got your handwriting for their physical address. It's more personal. It's exactly what you just said. Absolutely. So 10 home previews per week. Why do you feel that would be important?
Understand the market.
Say that, I'm sorry?
So you can understand the market you're working in, like the trends, values of the homes and stuff, to be able to help your buyers and sellers do comps and everything as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're going to sell real estate, you need to know real estate. So you need to know what's on the market, what's selling, what's not selling, why. Looking at price points, look at where it was listed at, look at where it sold at, look at its condition. So, and then also previewing homes, and that's not just on the MLS, that's actually driving around and actually looking at some of the homes as well. You need to look at the neighborhoods. How many of you have ever seen a picture of a home on like a new listing on the MLS, and it looks fantastic? It's like, oh my gosh, who wouldn't want to buy this home? But it's been sitting on the market for like 46 days. You're all, I don't get it. I run the comps, everything looks great. You actually go drive the neighborhood and now I know why this thing is still sitting on the market. Look at the neighborhood, it's overpriced for this area. And so now you can understand why it's still sitting on the market. So yeah, understanding the market and driving around different communities, definitely within your farm area. Have you guys been introduced to farming as of yet?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. So definitely your farm area, definitely know your farm. Drive up and down the streets, look at the neighbors, wave at the neighbors, drop off your materials if you're allowed to. Every brokerage is a little bit different as far as what their allowances are on that given COVID, but dropping off materials, something that's branded to you, to put yourself as a reminder that when they want to buy or sell real estate, you're the one they think of. So previewing homes, knowing your neighborhood is definitely a good piece. And I'll share a quick little example of an eye opener for me. Is I went door knocking one time. I was relatively newer at the time, and I went door knocking at the time, and I came across somebody that was hosting like a Saturday garage sale. So I go up there and I'm talking to the people, and they say, how much is that home over here on the next street? And I had that deer in the headlight look, like, oh, there's a home for sale. Oops. So definitely, food for thought, and make sure that you plan and prepare that before you go door knocking. Know your farm. Look at what's for sale in the area. What's pending in the area. Even coming soons if you're aware of them, because they won't. There may not be a sign in the yard yet, but there could be a coming soon that's on the MLS. So now you can share, and now you look like you're the area specialist now, because the fact that they have questions, you have answers, right? So that's exactly why we do that. So moving down here, changing the screen here. Scripting, okay. Give me a quick second here. My screen just froze up a little bit here. Okay, so for scripting, the one daily success habits that we need to work on is memorizing and internalizing scripts. Why do you think that's important?
So you can listen and be more engaging while going down the script.
Absolutely. It's having answers to their questions. It's sounding very knowledgeable in the market, and it gives you an opportunity to have a flowing conversation while working them towards closure or conversion, then to closure. So what happens is this, you taking an example of, I'll use Tom Hanks for an example, just because everybody's heard of him, knows him, and has seen many of his shows. If you notice, he's done a wide variety of different movies, you know, anywhere from comedy to, you know, along the line. So if you've seen, was it Saving Private Ryan, you know, war movie, you know, a lot of energy and stuff, and then Apollo 13. For Tom Hanks to be that good, he has to memorize a script. And he has to memorize it so much that he has now internalized it to where now he doesn't have to think about the words anymore because it's internalized now. He's memorized it. So now as a result, he can pour himself into his acting to now he becomes a very believable character, that whatever character he plays, or really any actor, actress is actually playing in a movie, they're very believable because of how they portray themselves when they're talking. We will basically facilitate the same way in our real estate business. How transparent are you? When you're walking them through a transaction, do you sound like a scripted person on the phone like we all get every day where it says scam likely on your phone, you know, or do they perceive you as a scam likely, you know, or do they see like this person really wants to help me, and you're walking them through, you know, a script that you have memorized and internalized, that now you can have a very natural flowing conversation that they have no clue that they're actually being scripted, because you're so good at just having that as a natural conversation. And actually, as time goes on, those scripts will actually become part of your daily dialogue now, to where now it's like you're scripting, but it's like you're not really scripting. It's just having a conversation. But it's like you got to get started someplace. So it's like, how do I have that entry level conversation with somebody when I'm walking up to a door for the first time, or I'm about ready to start making cold calls for the day? Have a script. It's okay to have it right on your screen. Read it right off the screen. But the reason why we memorize and internalize it is because we have a script with pretty like standard blanket answers. What happens if they don't give you that answer? Is that going to throw you off? Like, okay, now where were we again on that script? It's really easy to do. So that's why we work on role playing, scripting it through, throwing objections, because you're going to get them. Well, you know, time and time again, actually, we have classes on objection handling. How am I going to handle this objection that comes to me? You know, another agent said he'll list my home for 3%. Will you do it for that? How are you going to answer that? You know, we have scripts for that. We have role play for that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can navigate through objection handling, where they can see it like you're not just trying to be one of those pushy salespersons, you know, like sometimes the car salesman people can tend to be, not all, but can tend to be. You don't want to be perceived as that. You want to be perceived as somebody that really genuinely cares about them first and foremost, putting their needs before your own. And all of a sudden now you've landed a contract, you've walked them through a transaction, you're handing somebody the keys to their home, or a seller the check to the net proceeds from that home, and you walk away with a nice commission check from that. And at the end of the day, you got paid for doing something very special in somebody's life. And that is really, really a unique experience. And if you can duplicate that time and time again, what was the origination of that? Role playing and scripting. So that's why it's really, really important to do that. So that's why we want to focus on that lead generation. It uncovers the motivation. Motivation is huge. They have to be ready, willing, and able to buy or sell a home. And if any of those three components are missing, they're not ready. So you have to revisit motivation. It identifies the objections. And again, that's why we practice them. It works on actually closing the deals. It speaks in terms that the customer can understand. And that's really, really important. It's kind of like the doctor that rattles off a bunch of medical terms. You're all, huh? What'd you just say? Can you put that in layman's terms for me? So if you ever had anybody ask you that in real estate, can you put that in layman's terms for me? I'm not an attorney. What's it saying? Scale it down for me. So that's why we talk about mirroring and matching. And so if you're going to talk to maybe somebody of an older generation, we got to have to mirror and match them. And that's where you practice that in role playing and scripting, and then speaking in terms that they can understand. So that's why you have to understand it first yourself as to the content. And again, that's where role playing and scripting is a huge component of that. And in doing so, this will actually build your confidence. I would say it was, how many years? It was years before anybody ever asked me, how long have I actually been selling real estate? And even my first listing appointment ever, they didn't ask me that question, or the second one, or the third one, or the however many. It was many, many later. And even then, it wasn't even them. It was actually a family member, because I was invited to a home warming party, and I was introduced to all the family and friends that were there. And one of the family members happened to just say, how long have you actually been selling real estate? And then when the seller over, oh, you've only been selling real estate that long? It was like, oh, wow. He was very surprised, which I felt really good about. That meant my confidence and my delivery was so on point that he thought I'd been selling real estate for like 20 something years. And I know I really look like it with missing hair, but really it just brings on your level of confidence of your delivery. So again, I can't really emphasize enough, when you have opportunities for role play and scripting, definitely block time that in your schedule and make that a priority, because that is something that's definitely going to help your business. Any questions so far about the scripting and role play? No? Okay. So this is, if we were in a live classroom right now, I would actually hand you a script, and I would have you divide up and partner up with somebody and actually go through a role play practice. But because we're on a Zoom call, it's a little more difficult to do that. So I'm just going to kind of give you the metric for this if you want to write these down here. But anytime that you're introduced to a script, and you're going to actually start scripting and role playing for the day, it's always a good idea to spend 5 minutes reading through the script out loud. Why do you feel that that's important to read it out loud?
To hear how you sound.
Absolutely. You got to hear you say it. It's one thing to read it, but to actually say it, and then to really bring some energy into the room, as we all read it at once. And I'll say, ready, set, go. And then everybody will, in tandem, they'll actually read that together in the room, and it really motivates you to actually get you going. And now you're thinking it through, and it helps you to actually memorize it. So spend a few moments reading it aloud, and then of course you partner up with somebody, and then you kind of take turns on each other. And then, obviously everybody's going to fumble through it. You're trying to read a script. It's unnatural, but after a while of doing it, it will become more and more of a flow. It will become a lot more natural. And so I know that Nick also teaches that as well at some of the classes as well, the opportunities for role playing and scripting. One of them that he gave me that I still use to this day is called Just Listed, Just Sold. And I don't know if you guys have been through that one yet, but it's a great script. And just to go through and chunk that down, and I've taught it at other market centers as well. And it really helps to just identify and kind of get your mind thinking of how to respond to people when you ask them a question. The whole idea about having a conversation is asking questions. Telling is not selling. We have to ask a lot of questions and get their feedback. And then what happens is if you ever notice any of the scripts that you'll go and read through, they're fully built with a bunch of questions. So we want to keep asking questions to keep getting more and more detail and information out of them. So that would be my recommendation to you on that, is to practice it out loud for 5 minutes, partner with somebody, and then practice going back and forth. One of you be, let's say, the seller, one of you be the agent, and then flip-flop and practice that through. So it's important that whenever you're actually making calls, I wanted to also share this with you. Give me a second for my screen to update here. There's the do not call list. Okay, so it's important that if you are going to make cold calls to people, that you check the market center should have provide details to you on where to access that, but to make sure that you're not calling somebody that's on the do not call. I know it sounds tedious, but it's definitely a compliance issue as well that needs to be addressed. And we want to make sure that we adhere to that. So all the more better, once you actually develop a rapport relationship, is get as many people into lead follow-up as you possibly can, because Now you don't have to worry about this. You've already had a conversation with them and you've engaged and you're developing rapport with those people that you will eventually transact with. So, but we just had to at least kind of make that little public service announcement there. So lead generation cold calling scripts. This would typically be, again, in a course. This course is designed for many, many hours, even outside of the 2-hour block that we've scheduled for this course. But because of the fact that we're not in a classroom setting, we're actually not going to do that right now. But this would be the time that we would actually get on the phone and actually, having now practiced the script together in the classroom, you would actually now get on the phones and actually use that same script to actually call people and start setting appointments. And so I would highly encourage you that after this call today, work it into your schedule at some point. If it's not already there, find a slot. And if not today, if it's already filled with activities that you've already blocked timed, then put it on your schedule as quickly as possible to actually role play and script with somebody and use that script to actually make lead generation phone calls. So also update contacts and follow up. Let's pop it on your screen now. So updating your contacts and follow up, that basically is also referring to the use of command. So as you obtain new information about your clients, so let's say you reach out to them, hey, just wanted to touch base with you. I know that we talked a couple of months ago. You said you weren't quite ready to sell your home. You were looking to kind of do a few upgrades to it and get some painting going. How's that coming along? And then field that conversation and see, well, we got delayed because of this. And then, we had an aunt that came down with COVID. And so it's the whole thing just been delayed. Start talking about the aunt and that, or be writing notes and stuff like that. And again, in order to keep it personal, you have to remember the conversation and then start chunking that down and just say, oh, okay, well, is there anything that I might be able to help you with? I can maybe provide some resources to you. Are you looking to get estimates for paint, or are you looking to paint it yourself? And sometimes they're just, oh, wow, you do that for me? Well, yeah, I'd do that for you. And then now you become a resource to them rather than just, I'm just trying to sell your home. And yeah, call me when you're ready. No, you're there to actually service them along the way, and you're a resource to them. So yeah, they're going to want to use you. You're like bending over backwards to help them. And so simple conversations like that while you're having your follow-up, now write those notes into your command and put a task, which you'll learn that as well if you haven't already. You'll learn that task as to when to follow up with them. And now you can go back and read your notes and have that conversation. So now, let's say you're going to follow up with them in a couple of weeks and just say, hey, I just wanted to touch base to see how your aunt's been doing. And maybe that was the only purpose for your call. And it's okay just to hang up after that, because it was in such, short duration from the previous call. It's okay for that to be the reason. And again, just genuinely come from a place of just gratitude for, the opportunity to be able to help them, that you're even making that inquiry. And that goes a long way in this industry. You'd be surprised when there's this many agents that are out there. What's going to set you apart? Why should they list their home with you? Why should they buy with you? Because you made a connection with them that nobody else did. And that's huge. I always teach that whenever we do like role play and scripting classes, and people will worry about, well, what if like somebody else is like maybe if that's somebody else's farm area as well. And, what if they get the listing and I didn't, but that's my farm area? It's kind of like, well, you can't really tag a territory because it's, it's not like, when you have an office this big and everything like that, you can't is anyone else farming this particular area? No, you just go and farm it. But what will happen is, and this is why we're completely non-competitive, is this. I could sit there and teach you a class today on role play and scripting. We could recite a script word for word. Then we could go out into the field and knock on that door. And I could knock on that door and say word for word that script and walk away with no contact information or anything. You, on the other hand, could walk up to that same door, say the same script, and pour you into the conversation. And you made a connection that I didn't on that same person. And you walk away with a new listing. So that's why we don't have to fear competition, because we're all learning the same material. But again, you are you, and you have a unique value proposition within you that you are just going to resonate with people that I'm not going to resonate with, and maybe vice versa. So that's why there's enough business to go out there that we can definitely farm the territories, make the calls, and just be you, be authentic. But but what we're teaching you here is kind of those beginning points, like how do I begin? What do I say? That's why we want to chunk this down, because we want you to be successful and we want to provide you all the resources and tools to do that. Moving my screen down here, give it a second to update there. Real play and contract practice. So contracts, how many of you have been through contract training thus far? Yeah, okay. So contract training, there's a lot to learn, obviously, on the contracts. I really can't emphasize that one enough as far as being, participatory in a contract training class, all the way from the listing agent to the residential purchase agreement, what it says. Because when you're at an appointment and they ask you, what does this mean if this box is unchecked, or if this box is checked for the appraisal contingency, what does that mean? You need to be able to explain that and what the ramifications are if it's on versus off as far as that check mark is concerned, and all the way through the contracts. And so, yeah, understanding those contracts are very, very important. Nick does a fantastic job of teaching that. I don't know if he's teaches all the classes or if that's shared amongst some of the other leadership within the market centers. But that is a huge component of obviously real estate, because the whole purpose is getting that appointment. Once you get that appointment, you've converted them and closed on them. Now you actually have to fill out that contract. So it's very, very important that, we have a understanding on how that works. So getting help, moving down here. We have different resources available to you for you to get help in the course of your real estate business. Obviously, Command is a huge resource to you. It has so many different components to it. And I know you're chunking that down. And another good resource to you is the Marty Miller 66-day challenge. If you haven't been introduced to that already, you can actually just go to YouTube and type that in there, Marty Miller 66-day challenge. And he's got a 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. You can go through the most recent one. And it also will kind of walk you through some videos on some of the different segments of Command as well, to where you can be really proficient with that. And then when you couple that with the in-house training as well that's provided on Command, you will know it very, very well. You'll be very efficient. You'll literally know how it thinks by doing that, and then how to set it up and really use it as a leverage tool to really, make your job a whole lot easier. And so you're working smarter, not harder, as we say, by using that as a leverage, for your business as well. KW Connect is also a great resource. There's a lot of training videos on there as well, of various components throughout your real estate business. So those are some great resources available to you as well. There's also chat and support groups that are on KW Connect as well. And you also have, if you have an idea, something that you would like to see maybe formulated into Command, there's also a place on there for you to actually, post an idea. It's ideas.kw.com, and you can actually, post that in there as well. So as we are getting down to the wire here of concluding this journey for today, we want to talk about building that success list. And the success list is really nothing more. Let me get my screen to catch up here. My apologies. To create your success list, you have to write down the things that you need, that you want to do, should do, what's your priority, and what's the task. And so that's why it's labeled on the screen as such. Is this one also in your book by chance? No, okay. But basically you create a success list. And when I say success list, it's basically what's going to go into your 20%. The 80-20 principle we talked about, it's your big rocks. Always focus on those first. So always when you chunk down, what does a success list look like, as opposed to just a to-do list? You see the difference? To-do is everything you need to do throughout the chunk of your day. But what are those items are going to bring you to a higher level of success in your business? And you need to be able to core that down. So I actually put that on a training one time up on the board, and I was asking, which of these activity, or list everything that you do on a daily basis that you absolutely can't wait to do. and they gave me a list of everything. And believe it or not, prospecting was not one of them. And I says, well, interestingly, prospect is the number one thing that you need to do in your real estate business to succeed. And not one of you said that it was something you really enjoyed doing. So I said, well, you know what? We need to solve that. We need to make prospecting fun. And so that's what we intend to do through a lot of these different trainings and everything, is to teach you how to make prospecting fun, because that is really the core element of your real estate business. Because if you have nobody to transact with, you have no transaction. So we need to get in front of people, but we have to do it without being fearful. We need to learn to step out of our comfort zones in order to step into our success. And in doing so, we need to make it fun for us, to where every day I'm going to get up and I'm just going to have some fun today. And so selling real estate is exciting. It is a lot of fun. It's very financially rewarding if you do it right and if you learn how to do it. And that's what we're here to do, is we're actually here to help you to learn how to be successful in your business. And we're here to travel this journey with you each step of the way. So that's why we always want to make ourselves available to you. If you ever have any questions, always feel free to reach out to the leadership or even some of your peers. You know, collaboration is huge. Mastermind groups are huge. We all learn from each other in this business. And so before we part for today, I wanted to ask, are there any questions in reference to any of the content that we've shared today, or just any other questions in general that you might have?
I'm good. Thank you, Tom.
Absolutely, Craig. Hey, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful opportunity to be able to share with you. I know there's a lot of content, so I apologize if I might have been talking or moving a little bit fast through it. It's just, you always want to be sensitive to your time. And I know that we're, again, normally in a classroom setting, we'd have been able to allocate it a little bit differently and had a little bit different level of engagement, as it's a little bit difficult to do on a Zoom. But I think you grasp the concept of it. And so that was really the main point, is to make sure that you walk away with something tangible. Sorry. That you walk away with something tangible that you can actually implement into your business right now. And so that's, you know, every day you're going to get thrown a lot of different opportunities of, you know, trainings to be a part of and everything. And it's like, I got all this stuff coming at me. It's like, how do I even begin to implement what's there? So that's why, I love the Ignite course. The Ignite course is really an A through Z, walk you through how to do your real estate business, you know, all the nuts and bolts and everything in between. And believe me, if you follow the steps consecutively day after day and follow it through, there is no stopping you as to what you can do in your business and to the level of achievement that you can achieve for you and your family. And so with that, any other parting questions here? No? All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the call. Thank you so much for being here today. It's Friday. Go out and crush it. I know you will. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you on our next journey, on our next segment of Ignite. Okay? You guys have a fantastic weekend. You're very, very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.